Grab those piping bags and let's decorate these simple but elegant heart cookies. Hi, I'm Leslie with Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and if you love decorating sugar cookies or you want to learn how, you're in the right place. Let's decorate together. So this is a timeless design that you could use for Valentine's Day, weddings, bridal showers, anniversaries, and even to save the date. And you can do this design on any shaped cookie. I'm using a square for mine. So I'm just going to touch down with my icing. I'm using a 15-second royal icing for outlining and flooding. And then I'll lift up my piping bag and follow along the edge of the cookie as I drop the line down. And then I'm just going to go ahead and flood this in. I'm going to use the exact same icing to flood as I did to outline the cookie. Again, I'm using a 15-second royal icing consistency here. And I'm just going to outline this in. I could go all the way to the edge because my icing is thicker, but it's always a good practice to flood just inside the edge and use your scribe or a toothpick to get the icing all the way out to that edge. And if you jiggle the icing as you go, it will lay down smooth and you'll finish much quicker. And then you can just give the cookie a little jiggle to smooth out any other flood icing, and then just barely tap at that peak with your scribe and it will settle right down. I set my cookie aside to dry completely. And now I'm just going to go in with some gel food color mixed with food grade glycerin and give it an airbrush look around the edges. And I'll explain my process in just a second, but I wanted to let you know that I did change the color of the cookie. It's still a little bit of an ivory tone, but it's much lighter than the cookie I showed you for flooding and outlining. And as for my process, I took a drop of gel food color and I blended it with a drop of food grade glycerin. And I'm just going around the outside and painting along the outside edge with that color. And then I'm taking a dry brush and I'm brushing it in for a nice airbrushed look. And then I'll set it aside to dry. It only takes a couple minutes. And then I made a silkscreen stencil with the heart. And so I'm just going to outline my cookie here on a paper towel so that I know exactly where to place my cookie with the stencil. And then I'm going to do a practice run on the paper towel. So I'm going to lay my stencil down and then use my red icing in a detailed consistency, about a 25-second consistency, and then I use a scraper to push it down through the silk screen. And then I'll lift it up and check and make sure that's all good. And then I'll position my paper towel and my stencil on my stencil holder, and I'll leave a link in the description for what stencil holder I'm using. And then I'll put my cookie in and make sure that everything is positioned perfectly. The paper towel is positioned perfectly with the stencil. And then we'll repeat that process and just lay down some royal icing and then scrape it through, push it through. I'm using a Thinamagini from the Cookie Countess. You could also use a spatula. And once I've scraped off all the excess icing, I'll just slowly lift up my stencil holder to make sure that it doesn't pull up with the cookie and make sure that my design is perfect. If not, I can lay it back down and do it again. And then you just want to repeat that process until all of your cookies are done. But adding the date is a nice touch for a save the date cookie set, or you can put any other words on top of this heart if you wanted to. So I made another stencil with the date of the wedding, and now I'm just going to go back in and do another sample on my paper towel and see how this stencil is working. My black icing is a little bit stiffer, so it is taking a little bit more work to push it through the stencil. So I'm going to layer on some more icing, and I'm really pushing it through here with my scraper. And I'm going for kind of a library stamp look, so that looks good to me. So I cleaned off my stencil, and I'm going to go ahead and do it on a cookie here. So I lined up my cookie and my paper towel in the stencil holder the same way so that I could just keep putting cookies right back in that outline that I made on the paper towel and do it again and again until the entire set is done. So I'll squiggle on some icing and then push it through with my stencil scraper, slowly lift up on my stencil holder. In case things are not the way I like it, I can lay my stencil holder back down and add some more icing. But that looks good, so I will continue with the whole set until they're done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions about stenciling or anything else, leave me a note in the comments and let me know what else you'd like to see. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other cookies in this set. And check out this video on how to make your own silkscreen stencil for cookies. See you later.